Shalom, giving all praise to Yahweh by Shemel, Shai by Hashem, Kodash, Shalom to the hopeful elect out there. And I'm going to entitle this video, Renaissance Art and the Rebirth of the Beast. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, it's 8:28 in the morning. So I'm going to do about 30 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and do hopefully another 30 minutes. So we figure about an hour. So it's 8:28. So at about 8:58, 8:59, I will close and I will come back. And this is going to be a live premiere. Where am I going to go with this? Okay, I was going through some websites. I looked up a couple of words. One of the words was Renaissance or Renaissance art. So you can understand what Renaissance art is about if you look it up. They tell you certain things in code. Esau speaks in code. So I'm just going to break down these words for you and what they really mean. Renaissance, as I told, this was this guy who was in front of the Met. What did he call himself? I think he called himself the Renaissance Man. He rolled up. If anybody has that video, just send it to me. I'll put it back up. So we were going back. He said, I'm the Renaissance Man. I deal with Renaissance and this, that, and the other. I guess he went to some prestigious college or whatever. He's with his girl. And he came up and he kind of challenged us. It was like an impromptu debate. And I forget what words were thrown back and forth, but this is when was Gabar Howard, I believe he was out there with us. Yeah, he was out there with us. He had paid a visit. We went to the Met, and he was all excited. He said, oh, wow. We're going into the different sections. So we started going into the icon. I think we went into the icon books. And the last thing I said, I believe it was Apostle Gabar asked the Renaissance Man a question. He said, what did he say? He said, iconoclasm. He should know that word. And he said, you tell me, which when you say that, that means you don't know. You don't have the answer and you don't want to say you don't know. That's a slick way of saying you don't know. Give me the answer. So I think I said, you mean to tell me you don't know what iconoclasm is? And I said, iconoclasm is when you destroy images. And then I went into Renaissance, and I said, what is the Renaissance all about? I said, the Renaissance, in the simplest term, is about European white people destroying the art of so-called black people and putting up art of themselves. And that dude, I mean, he could have beat Hussein Bolt. He bolted out of there, man. So that truth makes these devils run, you know? That's the only weapon you need is truth. So anyway, I looked up, I typed in Renaissance art. As you can see these images of so-called white people. So I went to the definition. So it says right here, it says what defines Renaissance art? Now they're going to talk in code. Renaissance art is marked by a gradual shift from the abstract forms of the medieval period. Medieval period is code for when Jake was ruling. See, Jake was ruling Europe for 1,000 years, for over 1,000 years to be exact. Jake took power from the Roman Empire. The Roman Caesars, as I have said in previous videos, that there was only 12 Roman Caesars, which were Edomites. The first being Julius Caesar, and the last being Domitian Caesar, which is the second son of Vespasian, the younger brother of Titus. So there were 12 altogether. And that's, when you go to 2nd Ezra chapter 11 and 2nd Ezra chapter 12, it mentions the eagle with the 12 feathers. The 12 feathers. Inside joke. So the 12 feathers represent each of those Edomite emperors. I believe one or maybe two of them could have been Jake. That was either Galba or Otho. That was during the reign of the year of the four emperors. Look that up. If I go to Google, it'll give you Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian. So I know this by heart, this general history by heart. But I believe one of them was Jake, because Jake was up in there. Jake was sitting on the Senate, and you had Jake that were the council. So after Domitian, the next emperor was Nerva. He was a Jake, and then you had Hadrian. I don't know the whole list. You know what I'm gonna do? Let me do this. Let me do this right here. So medieval also means dark ages. Let me do this. Bear with me for a minute. Oh, you know what? Let's come back. We'll come back to this. I'm not going to deal with this. I wanted to stay with Renaissance. You know what? Let's go ahead and deal with it. I'm sorry. Let's deal with it. All of the emperors that ruled Rome. Okay. Bear with me for a minute. List of Roman emperors. Okay, they mention Augustus, but they don't mention Julius. Julius was the first. And by the way, as I said in previous videos, when you go to 2nd Ezra chapter 11 and 2nd Ezra chapter 12, it has absolutely nothing to do with America. Anybody that tells you, well, that's talking about America, that's talking about the EU, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Because Bishop Nate attempted to break it down and he put his foot in his mouth. It has nothing to do with America. But what about the eagle on fire? I believe that's either in, I believe that's Second Ezra chapter 12. The eagle on fire is talking about the Roman Empire. Look up a history of Rome, fires of Rome. Tell me what you come up with. Okay, so now Vitellius could have been a Jake too. We know that Vespasian and his sons were Edomites. Okay, so from 96 AD to 192 AD, these are all Jakes, but they got them looking like Edomites. These are all Jakes. If you notice, you have two of them that got beards, but the rest of them, okay, Marcus Aurelius, famous for the movie Gladiator, the first opening scene, you had his son Commodus and Marcus Aurelius. But then they went off in the movie because you had an emperor before Commodus came into power. I'm just checking out the names here. Okay, you had Marcus Aurelius, then you had Lucius Verus, and then you had Commodus. In the movie, they just went from Marcus Aurelius to Commodus, and you can clearly see. Now look at them. Them and that Edomites. Those are Jakes. And then, you had a group of Caesars called the Good Caesars. Hadrian was one of them. Nerva was another. Matter of fact, let me do this. Let me do this here. The Good Caesars. Or the 5 Good Emperors. Let me see if I can get that list. Okay, they mentioned Nerva. He was the first Jake to rule Rome. Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antonius Pius, and Marcus Aurelius. Because in the movie he came off as a father figure in the movie, as a good, because that was a time period where you had a bunch of emperors back to back that were considered good emperors. It had nothing to do with them Edomites, man. It had nothing to do with, Julius Caesar all the way up into Domitian. They were a bunch of devils. So the whole concept of good Caesars came along when Jake came in there. And then eventually you had the so-called Byzantine Empire. I'm just going into some history. If you're going into scriptures, and see, this is what Christians don't understand. All they know is John 3:16. Well, God knows everybody. He loves that. He doesn't love this. He doesn't hate the sinner. He hates the sin. Well, why is he going to destroy people if he hates the sin? Because Paul said that. It's not me that doeth it, but sin that dwelleth in me. Fucking Christians don't know what the hell you're going. Including, and that includes you, this guy, Vocab Malone. Now, he did a video recently, and I did like a counter to it about the word ruddy. So I listened to the rest of it, and he'd been watching us, been listening to us. At first he said, well, ruddy means red. Now he's saying what we're saying. well, it's a reddish brown or a brownish red. He's talking like us. He wants to be an Israelite so bad, you know. You can see it in his eyes. But anyway, ruddy, when David fought Goliath, when David called him ruddy, when the scripture said ruddy, it had nothing to do with color. It had nothing to do with color. But if it did have something to do with color, King David had the complexion of a Malcolm X or a red fox. Red fox was called red fox because he had like a reddish brown tint to his skin. Malcolm X street name, and now you know they used to run together. They were partners in crime before Red Fox became a comedian. He was a hustler out there, and so was Malcolm X, Malcolm Little. What's his name? El Malik Shabazz, I believe his Meccan, his Islamic name is. That's Malcolm X, but he was known as Detroit Red because he had a reddish brown tint to him. So now, vocab says, it says David had a reddish brown tint to him. So he's kind of saying that, yeah, David was a brown-skinned man. He was, he was a brown. He admitted that he was a brown. Watch the video. And then he said, but that means Edom looked just like David. So so Edom, the Edomites really wasn't white. They were so-called black people. No. That's bullshit. The Edomites are your average crackers, man, out here. Now, some of them are jakes. Your small hats, your people around the world. Now, you had Israelites spread around the world, mingled. You had Israelites looking like every color, so to speak, on the planet Earth. Daniel, what is that? Jeremiah, say Daniel. Daniel, I was going to say Daniel 9. Jeremiah 12 and 9. Speckled bird. You're going to have Israelites looking like, that's that multitude in Revelation chapter 7. They're going to be looking like every color. They're going to be looking like Moabites. They're going to be looking like Ammonites. They're going to be looking like Hamites. They're going to be looking like Ishmaelites. They're going to be looking like Edomites. So in order for you to understand these scriptures, you have to go into the history. You have to sort of go into jump on a time machine in your mind when you read about the Apostle Paul, and you read about King David, and you read about our Lord, the Messiah, and you gotta picture yourself in there. Now these Edomites, they make good movies, and they make it seem like they took a time machine and took a camera and they cover every detail, man, except for one thing. When they got so-called black characters, people of color, they'll have them as being white. So anyway, let me do this. So I'm finished with this. So you ever run into somebody and it's subject on the Roman Empire, the emperors of Rome, and you tell them that, the first 12 were so-called Edomites, maybe 2 of them were Jake, but the rest of them were all Jake. And they argue about it. You ask them a question, could you name me the 3 of the 5 good emperors? If he doesn't know, what do you mean by that? He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. So, let's come back here. So the Renaissance is spoken of in the scriptures in Revelation chapter 20. When you start from the first couple of verses, where he deceived the world, that you got to know history. So if you go to Revelation chapter 20, another one of my favorite prophecies, I love the prophetic scriptures, and I know them all by heart because I go over them over and over and over again. So Revelation chapter 20 basically says how Esau came back into power, and the power came out of Spain. It didn't come out of Italy. The Renaissance mainly came out of Spain. out of Italy. But the power at that time, during the time of Christopher Columbus, when he went to the New World, what they call the New World, it's called the New World today, New World Order, as opposed to the Old World Order. But that was the birth of the rebirth of this man. That's why they call that period the Renaissance period. So now, I put in, you could have put in Renaissance or Renaissance art. I put in Renaissance art. So let's read this. It says, Renaissance art is marked by a great shift from the abstract forms of the medieval period. Now, what is a medieval period? In other words, there was a shift. There was a changing of the guards. One group went down, just like Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of what that followeth. Well, guess what? During this time period, Jacob was going down and Esau was coming up. So now Esau is coming down, and it's a gradual. They come down gradually. You notice Jake is doing good, man. There's enough multimillionaires, professors, doctors, lawyers, politicians, senators, governors, mayors, educated people among Jake, rich people. There's billionaires among Jake, man. Multi-millionaires and multi-billionaires. There's enough of us out there on a high enough level where we don't need no damn reparations. We can just take the system over. And see, Esau knows that because we did that back in the day. Going back, starting with Nerva, we took shit over. We had them different positions, and we were trusted by Esau. Hey, I worked on jobs where these Edomites trusted the hell out of me, man. I remember one job, they were so-called Jews, but if there were major deliveries, man, they would pick me, you and Gabar, y'all. And they called us by our Hebrews name because we had road names. So they would get on the phone with Tahar and Gabar, but they would trust us. So that's how Jake got into power, because Jake was doing the right thing for the white master. And he said, if this man was one of mine, see, I'll have him marry my daughter. And some of them did. So Jake has enough power to overrun this man. But it is going to happen through the spirit of the Most High. But Jake is doing. Hey, Floyd Mayweather, he's a multi-millionaire, man. He owns three jets. He owns his own airport, and he's constantly making money. He's working with them people out there in Dubai, them Arabs, and he got boxing gyms all over the place. So every time he turns around, his bank account just keeps growing. All right, so he's great. Just to name a few. You know, you got LeBron James. They call him King James. He helps a lot of Jakes. I believe he got a school. My older brother, he's a basketball freak. You know, he could have played in the NBA if he didn't start getting in trouble back and forth out the system, because he had a wild side to him. But he studies, you know, LeBron James. He knows, he's like a basketball fiend. But so you got individuals, you got any given player on the NBA, especially the top players, they're billionaires and multi-millionaires, meaning they're worth hundreds of millions to. There's a couple of them out there that are billionaires. I don't know the net worth of LeBron James, but I do know this. Straight out of high school, his first year, he got it. I remembered it, man. He said he got a $10 million deal with the NBA, but he also got a $90 million deal with Nike. So his first year, not even playing one game, before his first game, he was worth $100 million. $100 million. How many years has he been playing? So how much is he worth? How many endorsements does he have? So Jake has power. You got educated, and that's what happened back then. And that's what Esau's afraid of. And you know what he's really afraid of? The fact that we're saying that we're the people. where there's more people of color with woolly hair on the planet that identify themselves with being Israelites than the so-called Europeans. And some of them so-called Europeans that are small ass, JJs, they're Israelites too. And you got to tell them that. So, so let's come back to Renaissance. I'm a little all over the place. It says Renaissance art is marked by a gradual shift from the abstract forms of the medieval period, which they said we got to shift it over. Part of that was iconoclasm, a thing called iconoclasm, where we had to destroy all the images and then put images of ourselves. That's what Renaissance art is all about. Renaissance meaning rebirth. So they had to do away with they had to do away with everything that had anything to do with Jake. And they still couldn't do it. You still couldn't knock down destroy all the paintings. So it says, gradual form of abstract form, a gradual shift from the abstract forms of medieval period to the representational forms of the 15th century. The 15th century is the 1400s. Our rulership was for 1,000 years. Starting from, and it's really, we ruled for more than 1,000 years because it was a gradual push-up. So we really got in full power during the time of Constantine the Great, 325 AD. And up until, so you go 1,000 years, that's 1325 AD. 1325, 1350, the beginning of the 1400s, that's when Esau, see this thing happens gradually. When the Canaanites got pushed out of the land, it was a gradual thing. So this man is going down gradually, and we're coming up gradually. But the Most High is turning up. Most High is turning up, man. So it says the time period was the 15th century, which makes all the sense in the world. Revelation chapter 20. What does Revelation chapter 20 say? Okay, I clicked right on it. It says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of the bottomless pit, which is Europe, and a great chain in his hand was an invisible spiritual chain. Like there's a chain. What does it mean by in chains of darkness? That's talking about these bodies, this condition that we're in. There's no physical, although they can arrest you and put chains around you, but there's physical, spiritual, invisible chains around us. It says, and he laid hold of the dragon, which is the European nation, the Edomites, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and that's why you calling this devil? Because it's right here. That's talking about y'all. And bound him 1,000 years. From what period? From 1325 up until going into the latter 1300s to the 1400s. And cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up. He was around us, but we were kicking him in the ass, and he was working for us. He was being brought before the court, the judge. A Day in the King's Court, I believe it's called, is a picture where you got Jake sitting up as lawyers and judges, and you got Esau behind the bar being charged. That's why they do, this is all vengeance, man. These are the days of vengeance. I believe that's Luke 19:43, if I'm not mistaken. It says that he laid hold of, I read that already, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal on him. That was a spiritual seal, an invisible seal. So Jake, being under the curses, is under a spiritual seal. When the Most High lifts that seal, which he's doing gradually, he's building us up. That's why you got so many millionaires, billionaires, entertainers. Jake is taking over, but it's a gradual thing, and Esau knows that. And set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more till 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loose a short season. So What did he deceive us with? With Christianity. When he went against the indigenous people of the Americas, which were the tribes, he said, if you don't kiss the Messiah, the Christ, the white Christ, we're going to kill you. And that's what they did. Then they said, if you remain being heathens, following that heathen way, we're going to put you into slavery because you're beneath us anyway. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to close it, and I'll see you in part 2.